A democracy can survive only if its citizens may freely pursue the truth. They must be allowed access not only to the issues of their time, but also to the wealth of knowledge and creative thought to be found in their history as well as in foreign lands. Here in the United States, we have the one place in the world that has compiled the knowledge of the ages and has opened its doors to everyone. Our nation's library. This is the Library of Congress, the largest library in the world. Its three buildings, just a few steps from the Capitol, reflect the periods in which they were built as the library's collections expanded. The newest, named for President James Madison, is the largest single library building in the world. Like any library, this one has books, some 21 million of them, resting on 535 miles of shelves. And 3/4 of the volumes are in languages other than English. But there is much more to this library than the printed word. There's an enormous motion picture collection dating back to the earliest days of film. There are videotapes of television broadcasts. There are sound recordings, prints, photographs, maps, almost every form of intellectual and creative expression. It is the only library in the world with the ambitious goal to collect all subjects in all languages.
The House is in the committee of the whole House on the State of the Union for the further consideration of the bill, H.R. 4428, which...
As its name suggests, the Library of Congress serves our nation's lawmakers as a source of information for drafting and voting on legislation. But it is also the nation's library, available to all people as a source of research and information. Every day, the library's tour guides escort visitors from all over the world to parts of the library, describing its glorious architecture and the treasures on display. Today, I'm going to take you on a very special tour of the Library of Congress. We'll go behind the scenes to see this complex institution at work. Congress formally passed legislation founding the Library of Congress in 1800 when they moved the capital to Washington from Philadelphia. It was the year Thomas Jefferson first sought the presidency. Jefferson, who later would play a key role in defining the nation's library. Recognizing the need for a small collection of reference books, Congress allotted the sum of $5,000 to purchase books from England and to prepare a room in the small Capitol building to house them. But during the War of 1812, the British marched through Washington, burned the Capitol, and with it, the Congressional Library. Thomas Jefferson, then retired at Monticello, came to the rescue. As a replacement, he offered to sell the nation his own library of almost 6,500 books. Those volumes would provide the library with a new character. The books were a reflection of Jefferson's broad personal interest in philosophy, literature, science, and history, as well as government and law. But something happened in 1870 that would mean an even greater change in the library's identity. For in that year, Congress rewrote the copyright law. From then on, anyone seeking copyright on books, magazines, music, maps, photographs, or other creative work was required to send 2 copies to the Librarian of Congress. Within a matter of years, the library, still housed in the Capitol, became inundated. Librarian Ainsworth Rand Spofford complained to Congress that books are now, from sheer force of necessity, being piled upon the floor in all directions. Congress approved funds for construction of a separate library building, and in 1897, what is now called the Thomas Jefferson Building opened its doors, paving the way for the modern Library of Congress. As I said, this is not a conventional library. You need only to stroll through the magnificent Great Hall of the Thomas Jefferson Building to recognize that. In many ways, this institution has become a museum which preserves the creative achievement of the human spirit. Like any museum, this library is a storehouse of treasures, thousands of them. Consider the Gutenberg Bible. Without question, the greatest treasure the library owns. Bound in 3 volumes, it is one of only 3 perfect vellum copies in existence. It is the first book ever printed with movable metal type. Upon opening its leather-boarded cover, one can't help but be amazed that this book was completed in 1455. The calfskin vellum pages appear to be brand new. They're white and smooth. The ink is as black as it was more than 500 years ago. The type is precise and highly detailed. The margins are perfect. The Gutenberg Bible is the most valuable book in the world. In 1978, a mere paper copy sold for almost $2.5 million. This one is priceless. Among the library's other treasures are Stradivarius violins, viola, and cello, crafted sometime around the year 1700. But these are no museum pieces. Fine stringed instruments must be played regularly to maintain their tone and resiliency. For these reasons, a private fund in the library sponsors the performance in many free chamber music concerts in the library auditorium every year. This is probably the rarest treasure in the Library of Congress. It is a draft of the Declaration of Independence with notations in Thomas Jefferson's own hand, dating from the last week of June, 1776. John Adams and Benjamin Franklin made some 80 additional handwritten changes. The Library of Congress holds many of Abraham Lincoln's personal papers. But perhaps most fascinating are these items which Lincoln carried in his pockets the night he was shot at Ford's Theater. Among them, 2 pairs of eyeglasses, one held together with a piece of string, a pocket knife, a watch fob of gold-bearing quartz, a fine linen handkerchief embroidered with the president's name, and a wallet containing some newspaper clippings and the only money the president carried that night, a Confederate $5 bill. Of course, books do constitute the heart of the library. There are some 21 million of them here. There are 22 reading rooms for research, study, and the enjoyment of scholars and the public. Unlike most national libraries, no formal registration is required, but you must be over 18 years of age. By far, the most inspirational setting is this main reading room in the Thomas Jefferson Building. Every statue, every engraving, every figure on the mural dome represents a part of the development of human knowledge. This room truly is a monument to civilization and the world of learning. The main reading room is the starting point for anyone who comes here for research or study. The alcoves around the room contain no less than 40,000 reference volumes on every conceivable subject. There are 25 million cards in the enormous card catalog.
I'm looking for a periodical for children. I think it was called Sunny Side.
A first visit here can be overwhelming. So there are reference librarians stationed throughout the room to answer questions and point readers in the right direction. Unlike regular public libraries, the Library of Congress does not permit books to be checked out, but its collections may be loaned to other libraries through interlibrary loan if the items can't be found anywhere else.
Thank you.
Every day, staffers deliver hundreds of books right to researchers' desks in an extremely efficient system of book retrieval. Based on information found in the various catalogs, readers fill out call slips and turn them into the central desk in the main reading room. With the help of pneumatic tubes, the slips are rushed to the appropriate place in the library. Other staffers locate the books on the shelves and send them back by conveyor to the central desk. From there, they are delivered to the person who requested them, and the entire process generally takes less than 1 hour. More than 5,000 people work at the Library of Congress,
Okay.
and not all are librarians.
Okay, recent issues in the 99th Congress regarding women's equity.
The Congressional Research Service fulfills the library's oldest mandate to provide members of Congress with information that will help them make informed legislative decisions. The service receives about 1,000 research requests every day, ranging from a short request, say for a specific fact or figure, to requests for a lengthy, detailed analysis of an issue. Each member of the 850-person staff is highly qualified to research any issue of interest to Congress, from weapons to welfare. The service uses computers to store information in anticipation of issues which will be coming before Congress. That type of planning is essential because requests for information must be met under extremely tight deadlines, and the answers and analyses they provide are always unbiased. The library only provides information. Members of Congress make the decisions. Through the services of the Law Library, Congress and the nation have access to the records of almost every known legal system, foreign and domestic, past and present. The Library of Congress adds about 1 million new items every year. Some of them come in automatically because of the copyright law. Some are gifts. Some are the result of exchange programs with other libraries, other governments, and field offices throughout the world. Imagine trying to organize 1 million items. The Library of Congress has a staff of some 1,500 people to do just that. You may have heard that the Library of Congress has at least one copy of every book ever published. Well, that's not true. This is a big library, but no library is that big. In 1981, the library stopped trying to add new cards to the card catalog and began to enter new cataloging only on the computer. Computer tapes and cards from the Library of Congress are sold to smaller libraries all over the world. All this helps ensure a consistent pattern of library indexing everywhere. Every year, more than 1 million readers come to the Library of Congress to make use of its resources. But the library also offers many programs to take its resources to the world.
And along another corridor, and so finally out into the open air.
One such program is the library's service for the blind and physically handicapped. Each year, the library produces some 2,300 titles in Braille, audio tape, or disc. All of these, as well as listening machines, are made available for free loan through state library networks. The library is also a publishing house, turning out handsome volumes that can be bought at the library itself or at government bookstores. And the American Folklife Center sends specialists across the land to study and document examples of the diversity of culture that is uniquely American. Are you interested in studying old maps? Or maybe you need to see how Manhattan Island was charted in 1639. Or perhaps examine the lay of the land on the dark side of the moon. The Library of Congress has almost 4 million maps. Most of them are stored in this 2-acre room 2 floors below street level in the James Madison building. The maps cover every conceivable landmass and body of water, every purpose for which a map might be drawn, and they date from some of the oldest charts known to man to the most recent road maps. When you include the library's 45,000 atlases, you begin to realize the scope of this, the largest cartographic collection in the world. If one picture is worth 1,000 words, imagine the wealth of information to be found among the Library of Congress's 9 million photographs and negatives. The huge collection includes every stage in the technical development of photography, as well as being a valuable documentary record. There's even a large collection of stereographs and several stereoscopes through which to view them. The photograph collection contains original prints of the most noted photographers from the days of the early daguerreotypes to the modern masters. The Library of Congress also collects moving pictures. Its film and television collection now contains more than 75,000 titles, and thousands more are added every year. And the library now has the ability to tape television broadcasts right off the air and add them to its growing collection. The library regularly schedules public screenings of selected films and broadcasts, but direct access to the collection is limited to serious researchers. All the abundance and all of the variety available at the Library of Congress is actually a mixed blessing. No other institution in the world holds so many sources of information and knowledge. On the other hand, at the rate that it's collecting new materials, the library is once again running out of space in which to store all of it. But there are some new technologies that will allow the library to store vast amounts of knowledge in much smaller places and to preserve rare and valuable items literally for centuries to come. Books and other objects made of paper suffer the most from the ravages of time. Paper produced since the mid-1800s reacts with moisture and other elements in the atmosphere to make acid. As a result, the paper becomes brittle and eventually falls apart. As many as 1/4 of the library's 21 million volumes have deteriorated. But over the last several years, library chemists have devised a way of removing the acid from paper by placing books into a vacuum chamber and treating them with a special gas. The library has plans to build a facility that will be able to deacidify as many as 15,000 books in the space of 1 week. Scientists estimate that once books have been treated, they should last another 600 years. But the library hasn't forsaken books that already have suffered damage, especially rare and valued volumes. A staff of conservation specialists, each a fine craftsman, works with meticulous care to restore deteriorating books, sometimes 1 page at a time. And that same kind of delicate care goes to conserve other treasured items as well. Of course, microfilming of extremely fragile documents, such as newspapers, has been a common practice for decades. And for a while, it seemed that this process might hold the key not only to preserving the information in books, but also to reducing shelf space. But now there's an even better way. Imagine being able to store 100 books in the same space that you now store only 1. This could be the result of a pilot program which the Library of Congress recently launched. It's a high-tech approach to solving the problem of a sprawling collection which continues to outgrow its space. It could also mean a dramatic change in the concept of libraries as we now know them. This scanner is storing the image of a page on a video disc. One side of each 12-inch disc can store the equivalent of between 10,000 and 20,000 printed pages. Right now, the Library of Congress is using this method of storage for certain periodicals, like magazines. Instead of sitting at a reading room desk, users sit at a computer terminal and call up an image of a page. Another system stores pictorial material. Multiple discs are stored in a jukebox. The appropriate disc is selected, a laser scans directly to the spot which contains the requested item,